What is up, YouTube? So, apparently, Australia legalized pot. Awesome for the good old down under, eh? Yeah. As a cannabis enthusiast, I like to stay informed on the various states and countries that decide to go medical or recreational or just completely legal, you know what I'm saying? And it's only a matter of time before the entire United States is legal, and eventually the entire world. Now, yeah, YouTube, there's a lot of misunderstanding regarding cannabis. Some users, or what stoners like to call lightweights, one or two hits and they're like, you know what I'm saying? If you've never actually done any cannabis in your life, you know, if you're trying it for the first time, take like one hit, give it a couple minutes to see how it affects you, you know what I'm saying? Because some people, when they smoke it, it just, the first two hits, boom, they're out like a light, or it really hits them. And then some people, they take a couple hits, and, you know, a couple hits after that, you know what I'm saying? Me, I can smoke a whole bowl to myself and be just fine. Yeah, I'll be stoned, but I don't get too paranoid, and I don't just completely lose my shit, you know what I'm saying? So it's only a matter of time before, you know, the rest of the world catches on. You know what I'm saying? And if we elect the right president next year, you know, it could be legal here soon. Unless Barack Obama can convince Congress that they need to fucking legalize it. This is what gets me about politicians, YouTube. These politicians that run for Congress, these politicians that run for president and governor and whatever else, is politicians are known for taking money from big corporations, which pretty much means that the government loves to make money. You know, if the government loves to make money, you'd think they'd be all in favor of cannabis legalization, especially after they see how much money Colorado makes on an annual basis, and you take that number and you multiply it by the number of states in this country, and you hit the equals button, and you're pretty much left with the amount of money that your country could be making off a pot, but you refuse to legalize it for whatever fucking reason. And whatever fucking reason pretty much includes big pharma paying crooked politicians campaign money to fight against it. The same drug companies that try to force feed you an antidepressant. And some of these antidepressants include side effects like thoughts of suicide. See, where the fuck they get off calling that an antidepressant when side effects may include thoughts of suicide is beyond fucking me. You go to the doctor says you should see a psychiatrist, and both your doctor and your psychiatrist prescribe you that antidepressant. And after they prescribe you that antidepressant, the drug company that makes that antidepressant will give your doctor and your psychiatrist a small cut of that drug money. And it's enough, you know, to keep most of them with their pockets lined and shit, YouTube. It's enough to keep them wanting to prescribe it and stuff. But if you're a doctor and your job is to make people better, not worse, and if someone says they're fucking depressed, you know, you think they would prescribe you a pill that's not going to make you want to commit suicide. And where the fuck they get off calling it an antidepressant when side effects may include thoughts of suicide, it's beyond me. Now you look at the side effects of cannabis, and there is no suicidal effects with cannabis, none whatsoever, freaking ever. So yeah, that's what's up. Ugh. I noticed though YouTube in my videos, I tend to repeat myself a lot. That's something I gotta work on. You know what I'm saying? My mouth just starts watering as I'm packing the bowl of tobacco. A lot of people have asked if they could see me on YouTube smoking pot on camera, and you know, the answer is you will see me doing it on camera, but not until it's legal in Wyoming. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people have said, wouldn't it be cheaper to move to Colorado? I can't afford that right now, YouTube. I really can't, and you know what I'm saying? So, you know, kind of stuck where I'm at the moment, and I can't say I'm complaining, but at the same time, you know, I would ask any cop or any DEA agent, I'd ask any cop or any DEA agent who's about to crack down hard on cannabis. And I'd be like, well, would you arrest a little kid for using cannabis oil for their seizures? Now, in the case of young Charlotte, her parents had tried everything the drug companies would throw at them, and they ended up using cannabis as a last resort. And some of the drugs they gave Charlotte to make her seizures go away, some of these drugs made her seizures worse, and she had like literally 200 to 300 seizures a day. And the cannabis oil made it to where she only had 1 or 2 seizures a month. It made her condition much more easier to deal with. Now, children with Charlotte's condition, when left untreated, can cause children to become a vegetative state, and they end up in wheelchairs and dying. It's not exactly the way a lot of people would picture a child living their life. No, certainly not. You know, a lot of people, when they make uneducated assumptions about pot, people like Nancy Grace, for instance, when people like Nancy Grace say, think of the children. Oh, okay, Nancy Grace, maybe you've heard of this strain called Charlotte's Web. It's a wonderful strain of cannabis. It's low in THC but high in CBD, which means it's not going to get baby Charlotte stoned, but it's actually going to help with her condition. Duh. You know, and a lot of parents fear that if cannabis becomes legal, kids will have easier access to it. And I disagree with that. A lot of dispensaries will check for your ID to make sure if you're in a state where it's recreationally legal, that you're old enough to smoke it. And if you're under the age of recreational use, then you'd have to have a doctor's note. That's the clinic that doctors are saying that this needs to be done as a clinical test or whatever, and blah 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 blah. Okay. You make the same argument with tobacco and alcohol. You know what I'm saying? I mean, kids have access to that shit all the fucking time if their parents drink or smoke. You know what I'm saying? And tobacco and alcohol can cause cancer. That doesn't mean they necessarily will. And cannabis can be used to reverse those cancers. So, Yeah, I noticed, like I said, I saw a thing on Facebook. Australia legalizes cannabis, or is in the step towards getting medical at least. So, that's what's up. It'd be cool if I got paid to make YouTube videos. That'd be the perfect job for me right there. But I don't have enough subscribers to do that, so yeah. Beats being out of cigarettes. It's a well-known fact that the United States government loves money. You think for as much as the United States government loves money, they would have been like, you know what, fuck it, pot's legal in this country. You don't like it, deal with it, you know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, you know, and the thing of it is cannabis was legal before 1937, and then again during World War II. If you Google hemp for victory, they legalized hemp and cannabis for mass production or what have you, and it was needed to fight Nazi Germany. Yep. So a couple things to consider if you've never done edibles, dabs, or actual weed itself is to ease your way into it. Some people who they do too much cannabis their first time around, and either it really hits them hard and they just, you know, they're passed out on their couch stoned, or they get super high and they enjoy it. You know, some people, they try it for the first time, and if they do too much the first time, they might not like it. You know, and cannabis is not for everyone. You're entitled to that at least. But to sit there and deny the medical and economic value that cannabis has as an industrious plant is blatant ignorance. And the reason why right now a lot of the corporate fat cats, if you want to call them that, will let these nasty antidepressants under the radar, like, who gives a shit as long as they're making money. And then they keep cannabis illegal so they can control the supply of drugs. Plain and simple. But I don't consider cannabis a drug, even though the DEA and the government have classified cannabis as a drug. I classify it as a plant, and the reason why I say that is because it starts off as a tiny seed, and when you cultivate it, it grows into a leafy thing. And that leafy thing, when it's cultivated, dried, ground up, and smoked, you know what I'm saying? Versus a fucking pill which is made in a factory. And it's been proven that cannabis, if you must call it a drug, if you must call it a drug, it's been proven that cannabis is the safest drug out there. Considering you'd have to smoke 4 to 8 times your body weight in THC in under 15 minutes to receive a lethal dosage. Now, you roll a couple fat ass blunts and start chiefing on them, and chances are you'll pass out before that 15-minute mark if you try to do it. And you wake up stoned enough to eat your entire fucking fridge out. This negative cliche that stoners, all they do is eat junk food, not necessarily true. Some stoners actually, or some cannabis enthusiasts would be a more appropriate term, some cannabis enthusiasts actually have a healthy diet. And this is the secret that the diet pill companies don't want you to know. If you exercise, and then when you get done exercising, you have a diet enriched with cannabis and hemp, it actually gives you a high metabolism and helps you lose weight. Yeah. And you exercise, and then when you get done exercising, you relax, smoke a little bit of herb, you know what I'm saying? And then you get the munchies, and you eat a healthy diet enriched with hemp and all the cannabinoids in your body are going to give you a high metabolism, all puns aside. I mean, there's a lot of amazing things you can do with hemp. You can build cars, houses, clothing, food, fuel, fiber. I have one plant, you know. Henry Ford's first Model T ran on hemp ethanol, and the car itself was actually, had parts of it that were made out of hemp, believe it or not. Benjamin Franklin, one of our founding fathers, wore clothing made out of hemp. A lot of our founding fathers wore clothing made out of hemp. At some point, they had to have discovered the sister plant to hemp and what it does to you. How they discovered it, I don't know. Maybe they saw one of their plantation workers smoking it out of a pipe, and they thought, well, this is peculiar, what are they doing, you know? Or maybe one day they were harvesting hemp in their fields, and they were checking on the crop, and maybe a bolt of lightning struck a cannabis plant, and then it set the plant on fire, and then a little bit of rain hit, just enough to make the plant all smoky. And as they were trying to put it out, maybe they got some of the smoke into their lungs, and they're like, wait a second. You know, Benjamin Franklin smoked opium when he had the idea to tie a key to a kite, which is how he discovered electricity. Thomas Edison also smoked pot. The dude who thought of the light bulb and the dude who discovered electricity, the combination of the two things that light up the school systems, the very same school systems that tell you that if you smoke pot, you'll amount to nothing in your life. And the only reason they say that is because some of the cannabis laws in this country are extremely harsh. A lot of people who have smoked pot, not all of them are lazy, you know. Albert Einstein smoked pot, and he was considered a genius. On the for real though, and it's only a matter of time, you know. It's only a matter of time It's like waiting for a bag, YouTube. And you'd think the cops have more serious issues to tend to than somebody smoking a little bit of bud. You know, what about all them meth heads? What about all them nasty ass child molesters and rapists? The people that are causing real harm to society, and you're more concerned about somebody smoking some doobage. Like, really? This is bigger fucking priorities, man. So kudos to Australia for legalizing it. And you don't have to smoke cannabis. That's a personal choice, YouTube. Just like alcohol and tobacco, even though President Obama has come out and said that he admits to smoking cannabis when he was younger, and he says it's less dangerous for you than tobacco and alcohol. But do you think for a split second that if President Barack Obama would have gotten caught the very first time he tried cannabis, if he would have got caught smoking pot the first time he tried it, do you think he'd be president right now? And the answer is no. In some states, if you get caught with one marijuana cigarette, you can't even get a fucking student loan, a housing loan, let alone become president of the United States. And at least he's honest about it, YouTube. You know what I'm saying? And he's pardoned a couple of nonviolent drug offenders, you know what I'm saying? But it's not Obama that you have to convince. It's Congress. They're the ones in charge of making the laws in this country. Obama just signs off on them, you know what I'm saying? And Obama's not the only politician to come out and say that he or she has tried cannabis. Sarah Palin smokes pot. Did you know that, YouTube? And it's legal in her in her home state of Alaska, don't you know? Tell me that ain't a coincidence. They're no longer busting some long-haired hippie in a basement somewhere. They're going after war veterans with PTSD for smoking it. And at what point, YouTube, at what conceivable point does this drug war become too much? At what point do you stop and say this is a waste of time and money? See, what happens, YouTube, is when you tell kids that marijuana is a gateway drug and you shouldn't do it, and if you smoke it, you know what I'm saying, it'll lead to other things. So when you lie about cannabis and then, lo and behold, you know, your kid goes to a party somewhere where he or she's possibly peer pressured into trying cannabis, and then they find out that it's not as bad for you as the school system makes it out to be, they go, well, if they lied to me about cannabis, what else have they lied to me about? And that thought process right there is your gateway drug, not cannabis. Because the minute that they find out that you lied to them about cannabis, they're going to think, well, what else have they lied to me about? So that right there is going to make them more inclined to try other things. Think about that for a second, YouTube. I think that once enough states and enough countries legalize it for medical or recreational or both, and you give it a couple months, and other countries and other states, when they see that, you know, they haven't gone to complete shit after doing that, they might consider it. However, in states like Colorado, you got to take some responsibility, because you're setting an example. Okay, you're setting an example for the movement. People are getting way too stoned and getting behind the wheel of a car, getting into a car crash, for one thing. That slows down the movement. People who are buying pot from dispensaries and then selling it on the street for half the price, and then people getting into gang wars over it, even when it's legal. Again, it's setting a bad example for the movement. I mean, if you want to make a living selling pot, get a job at a fucking dispensary. You know, because if you get caught in Colorado, if you get caught in any state where it's legal, if you get caught selling pot in a state where it's illegal without the proper paperwork, you can still go to jail for it. And it's not worth it, you know? It really isn't. Now, if I actually ever had kids and they got to be a certain age and they wanted to try cannabis, I would rather they smoke with me first. I'd rather my own kids smoke with me first before going to someone else to get it. You know what I'm saying? Because I know if I get it, I know it's going to be legit. It's not going to be laced. You know what I'm saying? And that's another thing. Okay, that's another problem with this drug war. Is that sometimes if you're buying pot from a dealer, you don't know if it's laced or not. Okay? And, you know, you're buying some weed thinking you're going to get stoned, and then they just sprinkle a little bit of cocaine on top of it, and it completely fucks with your weed high. If it's your first time doing it, you may not like it. Now, there's been multiple studies done, and cannabis does not lower your IQ, contrary to belief. Which, when you think about it, it makes sense. That stereotypical stoner joke when stoners say, it's a conspiracy, man. But when you think about that for a second, you know what I'm saying? You smoke a little bit of that herb, and all of a sudden you're seeing things in a different perspective. The sooner they legalize it, the better. You know, there's a lot of cities and towns and counties in this country that have no economy. People losing their fucking jobs. And this economy's broke. You know, it's not nearly as bad as the Great Depression, mind you, but still. The combination of banks giving out loans to people who can't afford to pay them back. People are in debt, not only student debt, but just debt in general. And then you sprinkle on the drug war, the phony drug war on top of that, and it's a disastrous combination for this economy, YouTube. Smoking DMT is illegal, yet DMT is a chemical that humans naturally produce. And it only occurs 3 times in your life. The first time is before you're born, the second time is when you're dreaming at night, and the third time is before you die. You can get arrested for doing something that your body naturally produces, and that's about how much fucking sense this drug war makes right about now. And it's not just us youngsters saying we want pot legalized, damn it. There's a lot of old timers who will tell you the exact same thing. Now, if you're going to smoke cannabis, it's important to know how it personally affects you. You know what I'm saying? Some people can smoke a joint, get super stoned, and be just fine. Some people will smoke it, and they don't want to do shit. Just because when some people smoke pot and it makes them lazy, does that mean that every person who smokes is going to become lazy? No, it's not. You know what I'm saying? That's like saying every person who drinks alcohol is going to become violent. You know what I'm saying? It's a blanket statement, YouTube. You know what I'm saying? Like Ferrero. And the only reason I would move to Colorado is because pot's legal down there. And I could probably get a job at a dispensary selling bud. That'd be an awesome fucking job, I tell you what. But alas, I don't have the money to just pack up and move, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of weed tubers out there, people on YouTube who vlog and smoke pot, which is good because they're doing these videos in states where it's legal. It allows people to see that, you know, cannabis isn't this reefer madness bullshit that they've made it out to be. I have a couple things on my bucket list, YouTube. And one of those things is to sit down on Harry J. Anslinger's grave and smoke a fat joint on the for real though. And just sit there right in front of his fucking tombstone, blowing pot smoke all over his grave and be like, what? Fuck your probation. You get the government telling us that we can't smoke pot, it's a federal offense, blah, 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 blah. And then you get several government officials coming out and saying they have tried it or that they have smoked it. And it's the most hypocritical thing in the world, YouTube. And then on top of that, you find out about how much the United States government likes to make money. And then They're not doing shit about legalizing it. You know, they kind of are, you know. I know Congress passed a law not too long ago that says the feds cannot interfere with states that are legal. So it's a start, at least. It's by no means the finish line, but it's a start. So if you're living in a state where marijuana is legal and you're smoking it for recreational use, then you gotta have some responsibility with it, YouTube. If you're too stoned to drive, then you shouldn't drive. How exactly do you know when you're too stoned to drive? When you focus on one thought and then it takes you more than a minute to process that thought before you move on to the next one, then you know you're too stoned to drive. You know what I'm saying? And for people who are demanding that pot get legalized in their state, you know, a lot of politicians are going to go, well, we'll take a look at Colorado and see how they're doing, and shit. They say shit like that. And if you're living in a state like Colorado where it's legal, and you're being irresponsible with it, you know what I'm saying, you're pretty much fucking the movement over pretty good. You know what I'm saying? You're slowing it down even more than it has to be slowed down. You know what I'm saying? Bill Clinton said he smoked it, but he did not inhale it. He did not enjoy it. Well, of course you didn't enjoy it because you didn't fucking inhale it. That tobacco is cashed. I mean, for all we know, Bill Clinton could have a bong in the shape of a giant saxophone, and every time he takes a huge rip of it, it plays the opening saxophone to Turn the Page by Bob Seger. That'd be an awesome little bong, wouldn't it? No, but seriously though, YouTube, just thought I'd mention that. So, as it turns out though, YouTube, cannabis will become legal in the United States of America in 2018. And the United States government has said this, and the reason why they say this is because, and I quote, Mexico and Canada's changing drug policies. That's straight from the government's mouth. So, I'm 24 right now. I'll probably be 25, 26, 27 when they legalize pot. Sweet. So, yeah. That doesn't mean, however, that states should stop fighting for their rights. You know, if our founding fathers smoked it, and the Constitution and Declaration of Independence were both drafted on hemp paper, it should be a constitutional right. Period. If cannabis and hemp was good enough for our founding fathers, it should be good enough for the Americans in these modern times. As a matter of fact, in 1900, you could, in fact, order black tar heroin from the Sears catalog. Yeah. Ain't that some shit? Now, cannabis was perfectly legal to smoke in Wyoming until about 1980. So you're looking at 36 years of probation. And each year, Wyoming wastes $9.15 million a year on taxpayers' money just to combat cannabis use. And if we take a calculator on my phone and we actually do the math on this, we take 9.15 times 36. That means that Wyoming has wasted $329.4 million. I did the math right there. Yikes. Now, for a state like Wyoming to call itself the cowboy state, and yet to make cannabis and hemp illegal, when in fact lassos were made out of hemp for the first 162 years of American history. I mean, really? There's a lot of people in this world that would benefit from legalized cannabis and hemp. It creates jobs in areas where there's no economy, and it creates tourism and stuff, you know what I'm saying? But one by one, states and countries tumble like dominoes, and eventually the entire world's going to be legal one day. You know, I mean, you want my solution? The entire fucking planet legalizes pot, and then instead of fighting over oil, they share it. Oh, I know it seems like a crazy ass idea, but you know, it's something to think about. Anyways, once again, congratulations to Australia for legalizing cannabis for medical use, at least. And as more states and more countries follow suit, people will begin to see as it unfolds, you know. But until then, this is KingCobraJFS with another video. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all later.